Hello, and welcome to Public Policy Analysis. I am Dr. Carl Snook, and today we are going to go over the syllabus, some of the ideas and rules for the course. I'm going to try to be encouraging, and I'm certainly going to advocate that we have and we maximize our communication this semester. One of the things that I would say really leads to success in an online course like this is communication. When you have a face-to-face course, quite often the communication facilitates itself. At least in the pre-coronavirus days, what did we have? At the end of class, you'd have 6, 8 students. They would congregate up by the podium and they would start to ask you questions. And you say, well, why didn't you ask this question a few minutes ago? And fortunately, quite often you could tell students this and they would start asking questions in class. But even the students who didn't, maybe because they were a little bit shy or that they were afraid that their question only applied to them, then you would at least know the problem, and then the next day in class or the next time the class met, you would inform them. In an online course like the one we're taking, you might never see your classmates. Now, we're going to try this semester to have a couple Microsoft Teams sessions. Because this course is advertised as asynchronous, they will be non-required, but they'll certainly be to your advantage to attend type sessions. And one of the things that I ask students is, if you are on Microsoft Teams together, with other people, show your face. I know, maybe your office or wherever you are is a horrible mess, or I don't know, you're a gun collector. I saw a thing where a student was suspended from school for having a gun, or in the background. Okay, move the gun or go some other room in the house, or obviously there's exceptions, but this is just my office here. It's half set up. I received a desk for this desk for Christmas from my wife and daughter. My daughter gave me a notepad and pen, and so I haven't had a chance to find a pen for it yet. But I was very happy she did that. And anyway, it doesn't make my it doesn't make my office perfectly put together just yet, but it will be. And maybe you'll get a chance to see it come together as the semester goes along. And maybe maybe the difference between how your apartment looks the day you move in and the end of the semester will stay a little closer if you give yourself the obligation of showing your face at the in the Microsoft Teams meetings. Not required, strongly encouraged. And certainly it's strongly encouraged at the Microsoft Teams sessions that you ask questions. Being prepared for any kind of meeting that we have, and we have a required meeting early in the semester to talk about your specific area that you're going to be researching in public policy analysis. I'm giving you all the opportunity to choose a topic, but at the same time, I'm going to have several suggestions. And one of the things I love is when a student is able to cover to cover a smaller topic more completely. Obviously, if you do a topic like climate change, well, climate change is a giant topic with many countries all having to get involved and working together for a solution. And we know they don't work together for a solution. They often work at opposing each other, but still hoping to get a solution. Well, in any case, that might not work. Um, how much better would it be to do something about a city park in Atlanta, where in 12 pages you can give all of the information that's necessary? You have 12 pages, you're probably not going to be able to go into much detail, and maybe that's a feature for some people. Um, but I think that how completely you're able to cover a topic um, will, will will show up in your grade. If there's a million questions left unanswered, then that could be a problem. Now, I don't expect you to be able to write a good policy analysis paper today. In fact, I think one of the problems that a lot of students have is that they have this strange expectation that they're going to be able to pass an upper level college course like 3313 is just by writing like they did when they were a senior in high school. Now, that might not really refer to many of you, but I imagine we have 35 students in the class. At least one student says, "I'm the best writer." I used to tell a story about a baseball pitcher, and he made it all the way, and he was pitching for, let's say, the University of Florida, and he had been like the best pitcher in the entire state as a high schooler, and his first time out in college, he throws a pitch, guy hits it over the center field fence for a home run, and he's like, oh, he shakes his head, and the coach comes running out, and he says, "What did you do that for?" "We said throw a curveball." And he says, "Look, my fastball gets 8 out of 9 guys out. They swing like idiots and they go sit down." And the pitching coach says, "Yeah, but that ninth guy, they're all there in that dugout." When you go up a level, you should expect the effort to go up a level, but also the learning needs to go up a level. And so the reason this course exists is because absent it, you won't know how to write a public policy analysis paper. You're not expected to go into this course knowing how to write this paper. You're expected, by interacting with me, that at the end of the course, you're able to write this paper. And I think a lot of students are very, very pleased with the outcome. And I think that the students who aren't are often the students who decided that they didn't need to learn, that they could get by on what they already knew. And a lot of you already know quite a bit. You don't get to be a junior or senior in college by being a moron. And so I recognize that, and I'm not going to talk to you like you're a moron. I recognize that, and I respect your knowledge, often about particular areas of public policy, more than the expertise I have. They always say that no matter how smart you are, you're not smarter than everybody else in the room. And so, I know a thing or two about public policy analysis and how to write a public policy analysis paper. It's quite possible that the area of public policy that interests you the most, that you know more about it than I do. Probably not if it's primary and secondary education that I did my dissertation on, but a lot of other topics. So anyway, I encourage you all to to communicate with me as much as is possible. You're allowed to communicate with each other. One thing that concerns me somewhat about students asking each other questions is that, what if the person you're asking is also confused? If you ask another student in the class and he says, "Yeah, I don't know, Snook didn't explain that very well and I'm very confused," if you take that as a sign that maybe you should go talk to me, then good. If you take that as a sign that, Jeff doesn't understand either, so I don't need to know, that's kind of counterproductive. You don't want to be reinforced in your ignorance. You actually could have saved talking to Jeff at all and just come to me to begin with. I hope that never happens. But I'm 51 years old. And when you're 51 years old, then you don't always communicate as well. You don't talk the language as it exists amongst people who are 21 years old. 30 years does amazing things. People are way less impressed by what I know about Eddie Van Halen now than they did back, in 1989. Nobody, knows the words to, Chumbawamba songs anymore, or I don't know. I didn't then either. Maybe I'm just a bad communicator all around when it comes to popular culture. So if I say something you don't understand, that's, say, old guy, explain this to me, please, and I'll do my best. The only advantage of talking to me about the directions over talking to somebody who you communicate with more easily is that I grade the papers. So anyway, we'll work together. We'll communicate together. We won't assume that the other person is hopeless, because you aren't. You guys have made it to be near the end of your college experience, and I'm not. I make money teaching political science. What we are is people who need to work together to make you as successful a student as you can possibly be. And we'll do that. We will accomplish that. Well, if we fail, it's to neither of our benefits. So I will not be having office hours in my office this semester. At least not for the first, well, at least not for January, and probably not for the entire semester. That's why we'll have to utilize an online source. I've chosen to learn Microsoft Teams. So we will have our meetings via Teams. If you want to meet with me at any other time other than a mandatory meeting, remember we have a mandatory meeting, but we also have any number of non-mandatory meetings. I can either set you up with my telephone number, or I can give you, or we can set up a Teams meeting to talk to each other. Hopefully that'll help solve any problems that we have. I ask that you communicate with me through my campus email and not D2L. D2L looks a little bit like the campus email when it comes to my campus email, because I never look at the D2L messages. But the messages also forward to my campus email, but I can't respond to them. So at best, I will have responded to your campus email, and you'll have to switch over to talk to me anyway. So I strongly encourage you to just send the messages straight into the campus email. So if we look at the syllabus, a lot of that information is listed here. The required textbooks. So we have one textbook that we're going to go through in quite a bit of detail. This is the Bardock textbook called A Practical Guide to Policy Analysis. This is a classic work in the field, and if you are trying to learn how to write a policy analysis paper, or to even just do policy analysis as a profession, this is a great book to have. Also, you will be reading with my guidance, but a little bit as kind of a book report, the Deborah Stone book, Policy Paradox. Many students find this to be one of the most interesting books that they read in their entire college experience as it relates to public policy. Ideas such as what people mean by numbers, right? She revisits every assumption that you have about the policymaking process. And she basically says that quite often it's ambiguous what people mean, and that we have to work really, really hard to find and to understand. And that sometimes that understanding doesn't help policy get made. Sometimes it's the ambiguity. Sometimes it's that a policy can mean one thing to one person and something else to someone else that helps policy get made. Sometimes it gets in the way. And she looks at challenges and opportunities of concepts like liberty and security and equality. These are all things that on principle, whatever we define as liberty, security, equality, we agree there should be more of it. However, she talks about trade-offs, and she talks about dispute over meaning. And anyway, I will guide you through this book, but a lot of it will be you reading it alone. If you read this book in graduate school, you would get a week to read it. So note that it's a graduate level book that is very approachable. A lot of universities use it in their undergraduate courses. But if you don't get it at either the undergraduate or graduate level, you're certainly way behind in policy analysis. And because it is a high-level book, that's why we walk through it step by step. And you'll have the entire semester to cover it, and I'll answer questions right along for it. But ultimately, what you're looking to do is to find, a handful of key ideas, often different from person to person, from this book that you can utilize to make your final research paper better. We will have a book report on it, and you will be encouraged to use it in your final paper. There'll be other assigned readings and videos to watch. There will also be slide presentations where I will talk about concepts from other books, and I will reference those books, and I will encourage you in your free time to find them and to look at them, but you'll only need to understand them at the level they're presented in the slide presentations. Much like any other course, when somebody gives you an idea, they tell you where it's from. One of the better public policy analysis professors of all time, Michael Munger, wrote a book in 2000 about policy analysis, and I used to use it, but this is 2020. So maybe not all of his ideas are as up to date as they need to be, and he still writes and talks on policy analysis and public choice and similarly related questions at the nexus of economics and political science that we'll cover in some detail in this course. But you'll know of all of the readings. There are some academic journal readings that you'll have. I've chosen them because of their approachability, not because they're not designed to be difficult. They're designed, though, to give you tools that will help you in writing your paper, in completing your exams, and usually we will discuss them a little bit in our in our in these videos. Like right now, I'm giving you a video, but every module that you're going to have in the course is going to have an introductory video and a voiceover slides. I might lapse into calling it a voiceover PowerPoint from time to time. I'm trying to get away from that so that if I ever get away from PowerPoint, I don't use it as a generic term anymore. We have every module is going to have, or essentially every module is going to have what I call a reaction paper. A reaction paper is essentially one half a summary, and the other half you extrapolate or propound upon what you learned. You'll watch a video, you'll summarize the key points from the video, and then you'll say, well, this helped me, or this didn't help me, or this was interesting because, or I'm going to put an idea like this into my paper because I think it'll improve it, and so on. One of the reaction papers is actually a update on how you're doing on your research, on your policy analysis paper, but in essence, it's a watch the video and write a reaction paper on it type of assignment. There's going to be some points for course engagement. Essentially, you're going to have to log in every week and do the assignments. So if you skip an assignment, you lose points. If you don't log in during an entire week, that's from Sunday through Saturday, you'll lose points. That's just a small portion. One of the things that's a hurry up and get started kind of concept that I've decided to introduce is that you're going to have 2 assignments that are due by the 17th. One of these should be the easiest assignment you ever write in college. It's a personal introduction. You're going to find that in the discussions on your D2L page, and you're just going to write a personal introduction. I don't assume a lot of research is going to be needed for that. I assume that you can write 150 words off the top of your head about yourself, especially given that the prompt says, you can say however much you want about yourself, but you should also talk about the policy areas that interest you. I encourage you to read other people's introductions and to respond to them. And it should be a nice, easy way to get 10 points. The other's a little harder. I call it the practical question assignment. And you will have a list of 50 questions, and some of them are quite easy, and some of them are a little bit harder, and you get to choose. First of all, what you're going to do is you're going to begin. There is a set of directions for this in better detail in this module, so I encourage you to look at them. But what you're going to do is you're going to pick a topic. When you pick the topic, when you pick the question, you're going to post that you've chosen that question. Now, you don't have to do that until you already know the answer, except that only one person per class is going to be able to answer a given question. So you might not want to do all of the research before you know you have the question. But you might want to do some of the research before you pick the question, because once you pick the question, it's your question. You can't change. So if we had a question about, how does the Electoral College work? The answer would be, it doesn't, right? We argue, they vote, we keep arguing, then we have a riot. Well, that's not what I mean. Obviously, you would answer that question in terms of how's it supposed to work. Well, anyway, if you had that question, you might say, I can do that question, And so you would pick, and maybe that question was question number 11. So you say question 11, and then you'd write the text in the subject area in the discussion section. And then that becomes your question. And you aren't able, and no one else can take it from you. And then once you know the answer, once you figured out how to answer the question, then you will go back and you will edit your post so that you then have the the several words answer. So if I ask you who was the who was the first signer of the Declaration of Independence, that's just that's just one word. You might write another 2 or 3 sentences about how you found the answer. You should cite a source. Although just being able to cite a source doesn't make it true, right? The premise is that the practical question assignment, you might someday have a boss as a policy analyst, and he's going to say, this morning, can you find this answer for me? And write up a brief discussion. And you might do that. It's also a good way to sort of warm you up to the idea that we look up answers, we gather our research, and then we write. And it's something that we should expect to do a lot. We should expect to do a lot of writing. Although I would say that the number of writing assignments that you have in this class might be large, but other than the policy analysis paper, they tend to not be extremely difficult. They tend to be the types of questions that become really easy when we want to engage the material. Bunch of class rules and university policies and such. My note on communication. I should add that I have a rule about assignment uniqueness. If you have another course you're taking from another professor, either in this department or in sociology or anywhere in applied mathematics and modern dance, if you're doing the paper on the same topic, you're going to need to tell that other instructor, and you're going to need to tell me. And as long as there's not too much similarity between your paper and this other person and the paper required for somebody else, all you need to do is make sure that this other instructor knows and that I know. However, if it turns out that the paper is essentially the same or half or more the same as some paper for some other course, that's not going to be okay. So if you have any questions or concerns about that, contact me. Say, I am really interested in nuclear waste disposal and I'm taking a class on it, but I also want to write about it in here. And I'll talk to you about what you will need to do to make it sufficiently different. You'll either agree or not. And you'll contact that other instructor and get his or her permission and convey it to me. Because I had a situation one time where there was a paper that a student wrote in my course, and it came back in another course that it was like 75% similar. And the instructor sent me a message and said, Carl, did you say it was okay? And I said, I didn't even know. And obviously that student worked out something with me, but I believe that the student failed the other course. I can't give you permission. I can only give you permission for my class. So I want to know that this other instructor is okay with it. So if you have any questions about that, contact me. It's not worth taking a risk. The final page of your syllabus is the course schedule. Every so often I find a mistake, but I think I've worked on it enough that it now has no mistakes. The actual assignments are in bold. The ones you have to turn in are in bold. But we do talk about other activities in the course. And the due dates for each of these assignments, unless it says otherwise, is the last day of the module. I did ask that your policy analysis question be due the 8th of May, whereas the exam is due the 9th. It just gives me more time. The paper that will take the longest for me to grade this semester is the policy analysis paper, and it's going to take me a couple extra days to grade that it's going to take to grade any of the other assignments. So I wanted a day head start. In essence, we talked about many different topics this semester. I'm very excited. Make sure you read through the syllabus. You have a week now to do your personal introduction, your practical question assignment, and you will also have a reading from me called Topic Suggestions that I strongly encourage you to look through. If you want to go off topic, then I'll probably say it's okay. If you're looking for a safe harbor, you probably should go with the topic suggestions. All right, I'll talk to you all again soon. And I really strongly encourage everybody to communicate with me. Starting on January the 18th, so 1 week from Monday that the class starts on, you will be able to begin scheduling appointments with me through the discussions tab on D2L for your mandatory meeting. Before the mandatory meeting, spend some time thinking about what you want to write about. We are a problem-oriented course, so look at the problems of society, look at the suggestions, and see what you want, the problems that you want to solve, and that could be maybe your policy topic. All right, have a great and productive week, and I will talk to you again next week.